I'm now joined by our regular contributor, Professor John Blaxland of the Australian National University. Well, John, welcome. You wrote an impressive op-ed piece this morning where you invoked the inimitable Teddy Roosevelt and said that for a long time Australia's been prone to speaking loudly and carrying a small stick, and this week's strategic settings might have changed that. We might be arming ourselves with a bigger stick and speaking a bit more quietly. Walk me through what your reasoning was on that very, very amusing simile that you used.
Oh, thanks for having me back on the program, Catherine. It's great to be with you again. Yes, thank you. Yeah, Teddy Roosevelt really had a way with words, but he also had a way with the use of power. He knew about power, he understood it, and he exercised it. He wielded it very effectively. And I think, you know, we in Australia could take a leaf out of his book. Because my sense is we've been pretty forthright in our language. Look, understandably so, with considerable provocations. But I think we need to be a bit more deft in our language and our diplomacy, taking maybe a little bit out of the Singaporeans or the Japanese, without at all taking away from the need to double down on enhancing our capabilities and basically, as I say, speaking a bit more softly, but making that stick a bit more wieldy and more substantial. And so I think this is where the submarines really come in. Now, it's going to take a long time before we see these submarines actually arrive in Australia, but by going nuclear propulsion, it really does give us greater range, greater endurance, greater flexibility, greater stealth. They're all the things that, of course, China has been exercising for quite some time now, building them dime a dozen. Let's face it, they're really churning out their submarines, let alone their precision, hypersonic missiles and other type of systems that are clearly offensively minded and which are generating, when you couple that with the rhetoric, they're generating considerable unease around the region and justifying quite compellingly, in my view, a doubling down on defence capabilities.
Well, and all those points are well made, John. I guess you and I are both a bit bruised by cumulatively something in excess of about 60 to 70 years in uniform. Procurement. We don't do it well. I am just slightly alarmed at the lead times on this program, given that our declaratory guidance is saying that the warning time concept that was concocted during the DIB era no longer prevails, and I'm just a little bit worried that we have done we've got all of this looks terrific in principle to me, but waiting 18 months to tinker with the design. What's your sense of our ability to get an off-the-shelf submarine, get some holes in the water sooner rather than later?
So, yeah, great question. I think what we'll need to do is work very, very closely with the Brits and the Americans to actually share usage of their ones for a while. And that means getting Australian crews trained up on US and UK procedures and systems, and work with them and maybe host some of their subs out here for a while. But we need to, I think one of the things that really has to happen is we need to get away from the sort of Sunday afternoon picnic in the park approach to procurement. We actually need to double down on cutting the red tape, on getting rid of the bureaucratic hurdles, first, second, third, past the post systems that have actually, worked fine when there's been no crisis, when there's been no existential threat on the horizon. We actually can't afford to operate that way if we ever could. And in this day and age, when submarines are costing a small fortune, a large fortune, let's face it, we need to be very efficient and effective in the use of our resources as we work on capabilities. So we've got to start being smarter, more efficient in the procurement process, and we've got to put an end to this endless blowout in timeframes and costs.